On today's show, we're getting into some news and notes. We got to talk about Zion Williamson, weird stuff going down in New Orleans, and then we have a power ranking, the top 5 storylines that people would be talking about if this Kyrie and Simmons thing wasn't just dominating everything. We'll talk about all that. Nick Angstadt, Adam Morales on a Locked On NBA on Friday. Let's go.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome. You're locked on to the NBA. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast. And joining me, as always, on a Friday, let's have some fun from DNVR and Locked On Nuggets. What you got for me, Adam Morris?
I got our last and final episode of the offseason. I'm so ready for the on-season, baby.
Going through some of the games tonight, I was like, all right, let me see which games mattered tonight, right? Because there's this weird thing in the NBA right now where one team, this happened with the Mavericks the other night, where the Mavericks played all their starters and Jason Kidd called it a dress rehearsal. And so they're like, all right, we're going to play Luka and KP into the fourth quarter. And then the Hornets were like, well, we're just going to play LaMelo like 11 minutes.
Yeah.
And then none of our other guys are going to play. And then they beat them by 70. And it just it happens now where some of these games are just so one-sided in the preseason. It's like, why even play them?
Yeah, it's so hard. Like, I'm just doing this with the Nuggets right now where I'm trying to analyze, like, is this a big deal? Is it not? And I think the answer 99% of the time is nope, it is not. It is not a big deal.
It's like, okay, so let's start here. How do you evaluate teams in the preseason right now? Like your Nuggets, my Mavericks, we're like trying to figure out, okay, what do I take from this? The Mavericks have played against, like 3 teams that have not been at full strength, not even close to full strength, basically. Right. So we're like, okay, feeling really good about KP. We're feeling really good about the way Luka looks. And I'm like, okay, but they haven't played against anybody. The Jazz, like 7 of their top 9 players were out. The Hornets had like nobody that was an offensive threat of any kind. They were all out.
Right.
It's just, what do you take away from some of these games?
I have no idea what you take away, but it is funny to me that you look at the NFL and they have the Hall of Fame game, and these games are televised and they go through the whole charade of the broadcast. And then these NBA teams, the Nuggets, for example, tonight wasn't on television anywhere. It was only streaming basically on like Twitter Live. Very, very, very strange. But I think it's also appropriate when you watch the games and you kind of go through it. You're kind of like, oh yeah, these don't matter.
Thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Remember, Locked On NBA is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. You can watch us right now, and the discrepancy between the fullness of our shelves, you can see right now.
Somebody was joking to me on a live show earlier that this was the Nuggets trophy case.
Adam just sitting in front of a very empty shelves while mine are just like packed full of like the most random things. All right, let's get into some news and notes. We got to start. I mean, Kyrie Irving, they talked all about it yesterday. So if you want full analysis about it, go listen to Jackson Gatlin, Matt Moore of yesterday's Locked On NBA. Kyrie's not retiring, but he's not getting vaccinated. And the story just continues on. Steve Nash said he did not watch his IG Live. News or not?
That he didn't watch his IG Live.
That Steve Nash's coach didn't watch his IG Live.
Definitely not news.
The other big story in the NBA right now, Ben Simmons.
I also didn't watch it, for the record. I just want to put that out there.
I saw the clips on Twitter. I am really trying to figure out, okay, what's his message in all this? And I cannot figure out what it is. Or maybe it's just not for me. Ben Simmons,
not for me either.
Yeah, Ben Simmons officially listed as doubtful for the Sixers in their game against the Pistons today. If you're listening to this, watching this on Friday, is that news or not?
Again, also not news. It's funny because these two stories are number 1, number 2 for like NBA news, but to me, that's probably a symptom more of what's wrong about the NBA, or at least how we discuss it. But not news. I mean, that's a situation. The only news there is that situation is going to linger. It's just lingering, and it's going to linger for a while. But who is at camp or called ahead or whatever? Like, I don't know, man. This is just the soap opera that people love to consume for some reason.
So to me, I think it's news because he's at least listed as potentially, right? He's just been out. He's just been away from the team. At least it's progressing in some sense. He's at least listed on the injury report. So okay, I take it as a little bit of news, but hey, the saga continues. Is he going to play for them? Who knows? His status is the same as his status for playing for the team. Doubtful. We'll see.
Yeah.
Other news, Shams Charania reported that Klay Thompson will be cleared for full practice over the next month or so. Are you feeling better, or are you still feeling like hesitant about the Warriors with Klay Thompson coming back in about a month or so?
So I heard that he was going to be back in January, like first week of January. So if we go a month from now, we're looking at mid-November for first practice. You probably practice a couple weeks. It sounds like maybe he's a couple weeks ahead of schedule, but I don't know that this is necessarily breaking news. Also, I know enough to say that when guys when you speculate like a week out, it's like, okay, that's pretty confident that this report's right. He'll be back in about a week. You start saying he'll be back in about a month. 2 months is about a month. Like that's, give or take 1 month. So I would say this is also not news. Like it's encouraging. If I was a Warriors fan, I would be drinking the Kool-Aid and wishing for him to be back even earlier than expected. But at this moment, I'm just going to say, we'll wait and see.
Continuing our run of news or not, LiAngelo Ball signs with the Hornets, and then he gets unsigned from the Hornets so he can sign with their G League team.
There is a process to this. Somebody was explaining to me the other day with the Nuggets had a player named Matt Ryan that they were going to send
from
down
the Falcons.
It sounds like it, but no.
No lead is safe. With
no lead is safe. But they had a guy, and I know they waived him so that they could sign him to the G. There's some process that's kind of weird here, but I would say this one is like mild news, and it's the news is just that LiAngelo is now officially a part of a team. He was the one Ball brother not to really make it, but he's making it in Charlotte, or wherever Charlotte's G League team is.
All this stuff is like when Michael Scott came in, he like made some kind of announcement to the bullpen in the office, and he's like, "This is my announcement." He left, and Oscar goes, "That's not news. You're just telling us things." He goes, "Yes, it's news. You just don't care about the information." And he walked away, and Oscar's like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of true. It's true. That's what all this news is today."
That is what this is.
Last one we're gonna get into, and let's dive into this one. Zion Williamson will be reevaluated in 2 weeks.
This is news.
He is not going to be ready for the start of the season. This was a whole thing. If you go back to media day, Pelicans media learned that he had a fractured foot and that he had surgery to like replace it. They had surgery to fix it, and no one knew about it. And then we just learned about it. Said he'll probably be okay to start, and now he's going to be reevaluated in 2 weeks. Not even just like he'll be ready in 2 weeks. Reevaluated in 2 weeks.
I sold all of my Pelican stock, and I think I'm shorting other people's stock at the moment. It's this is weird, Nick. I mean, the whole saga has been weird. Honestly, since Christian Clark, NOLA.com dropped the report where there were stories about David Griffin playing the piano at one point and all these weird things that went on. You just got this feeling of like, man, the Pelicans sound like they're a little dysfunctional is an understatement. And then you get the report of media day about a surgery we didn't hear. Zion looked heavy. I mean, he's looked heavy really coming into the season every year, but he looked especially heavy, I thought, this year. And now reports we don't have. And then I don't know if you saw this part of it today, but David Griffin clarified a previous report where he said, Zion will be ready for the season. And then today he said, what I meant was at some point of the season. It's like, hold on. That is not an accurate. Those two things are
come on.
Very
He'll be ready for the season at some point. Right?
Yeah, for the season. Just
an incredible clarification.
An incredible one. So I look at the Pelicans and I go, does anybody know what's going on over there? It's unfortunate. This one's big news because the Pelicans were a team that should be in their process good enough to be in the conversation of disruptors, not really contenders, but disruptors. And I look at them now and I go, are they going to be a play-in team?
There's just so much dysfunction there. We have one of these teams, I feel like, every single year. And this year it feels like we have 4, right? With like the Sixers, the Nets, and like the Pelicans, where they're like, just going into the season, there's so much. The Timberwolves should be one of these teams, and we're not talking about them with the whole Gerson Rosas thing because of all this other stuff. But there are these teams that come in, and just the dysfunction sort of just takes over the team. It becomes a cloud over the team, and then they just don't perform early in the season, and then all of a sudden they take on the dysfunction as their identity almost, right? And then they just play they just play the season, and you're like, okay, cool. Well, this is just the dysfunction team.
This is just who we are. We're dysfunctional.
I think Bill Simmons calls it like the season from hell team, right? There's always that team, and it may be the Pelicans this year.
Who is? So you think it's them? I wonder who the other candidates for season of hell
it's like Sixers, I think, if the Ben Simmons stuff just drags on.
Sixers are a great candidate for this for sure.
That team.
I don't know who else. I don't know who else could be a I'd have to go
Well,
through and really look.
the Dallas Mavericks could have it. I mean, anybody could have it if
Could have it for
if
sure.
their star player gets hurt or something like that. But the Mavs could have it if something happens to KP and J Kidd isn't good. Like there's some volatility with that team.
I got one I'm guessing we're gonna get to on the other side. They played tonight. They might have lost to the Sacramento Kings to go winless in the preseason.
We may be talking about them in our power ranking later in the episode too. So we'll be talking about all the games that happened last night on Thursday night coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about PrizePicks. PrizePicks is a new app, maybe new for you, but they are the NBA daily fantasy prop game. And they're the best one on the market right now. They offer more NBA props than any other daily fantasy prop operator. And they offer all the superstar players, as well as some of the bench players. We love to talk about the stars, but like we love to talk about the LiAngelo Balls of the world. We love to talk about the random dudes. We love to talk about the Bones Highlands of the world. We like to talk about
who doesn't like that?
Just the guys that nobody else talks about. And you can go and bet on those guys, and you can go ahead and pick the over-unders for points at PrizePicks. They offer any prop you can think of, from yardage, touchdowns, points, rebounds, assists, fantasy score. You can also pick an over-under on that too. Go ahead and go to prizepicks.com. Use the promo code NBA, and you'll get a 100% match on your deposit up to $100. Use the promo code NBA. You pick 2 to 5 players, pick an over-under their projections. You can win up to 10 times. There's all kinds of bonus and multipliers and all kinds of stuff you can add to this. Go check it out. You can combine NFL, NBA. They have like Call of Duty leagues. They have like tennis. They have all MMA, all kinds of different things that you can combine and sort of combine all these different things that you can pick. So go check out PrizePicks. It's available in a lot of states as well. Go check and see if it's available in your state, because there's a lot of states like Texas. It's available. You can go check it out there. Go to prizepicks.com, promo code NBA. All right, Adam Mares, let's get into the games of the night. We had 4 games on the slate, and man, I'm so looking forward to next week when these games are going to matter, because I start looking through some of these games, and you're like, oh, dang, the Hawks destroyed the Heat. And you're like, okay, well, Udonis Haslem started for the Heat. It didn't really matter for this team. The Hawks played their entire team, basically. This is the same story as the Mavs versus the Hornets the other day.
Yeah.
Udonis Haslem started. I mean, what else? What do we take from this game?
Well, the other stat I see here is the leading scorer was Micah Potter.
Yeah.
Micah Potter Jr.
Yeah, the variant of Michael Porter Jr.
Right, the variant. I don't know what I take from that one, to be honest. I don't know what I take from any of these. It's going to be, sort of the same old story. You look at the stat lines here, and you look at Trae Young dropping 27 points and 15 assists. That seems pretty good. Seems pretty comfortable. And you look at a team there just in the Hawks that the thing that makes you excited about them, if you're high on them, is obviously Trae Young, but also just the many weapons. And you got that entire starting lineup minus Bogdanovich in double figures. It just, looks like a team that is that their starting unit at least has some momentum going into the season.
With the Hawks, the big story came out in The Athletic about the John Collins, Joel Embiid rivalry, the back and forth, the beef that they have with each other. We've seen every once in a while, you see these clips of them dunking on each other or doing something, and they give a little stare. There's like a little extra. There's like extra mustard on the end of every
John
one of
Collins
these plays.
Create a T-shirt of him dunking on Joel Embiid? I mean, yeah, he takes it pretty far.
They take it very personal, and the story of how it started in The Athletic, you have to go read it because it's wild the way that it started. He was basically John Collins was driving around with Justin Anderson, Simba, from formerly Mav, Hawk, Net, everybody, former everything. He was driving around with him, and he was on the phone with Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid said something to John Collins, he made a joke about how, the Hawks will never be in the playoffs, so you don't have to worry about this. And John Collins was like, full Michael Jordan, and I took that personally. And so now it's been his vendetta to go after Joel Embiid. Do you care about these little rivalries between players where one of them is just kind of completely outclassed with the other player, but every once in a while they can get a dunk in or something like that?
This one is close enough that John Collins is not a scrub. He's not Joel Embiid, but he's not a scrub. So to me, it's okay. It'd have been different if it was, who'd you say was Justin Anderson?
Yeah, Justin Anderson.
It would have been different if it was him and Joel Embiid.
Yeah, right.
That beef I would have said okay, but John Collins and Joel Embiid, no. John Collins is he's good enough that he could punch up.
What do you do if you're the mutual friend? You're Justin Anderson, and you're in the middle of both of these. You're like, John Collins is like, if I just got the opportunity, if I just got the post-up attempts that Embiid got, I could be scoring just as much as him. And you're like, yeah, man.
I think that's
Cool.
what you do. You go, totally, bro. Totally,
You
man.
just play along with it. So go read that story in The Athletic. I thought it was really good. There's some good stuff in there. Just their jabs back and forth. The Brooklyn Nets beat the Minnesota Timberwolves 107-101. This was the only game that or one of the only games that felt like, oh, this may actually mean something. There's players playing on both sides. We got to see a lot from Edwards and Towns, and we got to see a lot from Harden and Durant. Actually, they played over 30 minutes each, and it was a pretty clearly a Nets victory. This is going to happen so many times. Very clearly a Nets victory. Last couple minutes of the game, and then all of a sudden the Timberwolves just come back at the end, make it close. The Nets are like, all right, we'll just put it away. Right? It just seems like they're going to do that all season.
Well, I'll say Minnesota. I've watched them a few times now in the preseason. They've been playing hard. I mean, they're clearly trying to establish a better culture and turn things around there. Karl Anthony Towns in particular, he goes for 16, 8, 6, 3, and 1. That's an incredible stat line. I predict really big things from him this season with Chris Finch at the helm. Chris Finch was the guy that, got things going for Jokic early on. He was there in Jokic's first year as a full-time starter. He went to New Orleans, had the Boogie Cousins, Anthony Davis duo. So I think Karl Anthony Towns has a great season this year. But on the other side, I look at Paul Millsap, and I just wonder that Brooklyn team is one of those teams that, like, if you rated them piece by piece, they get like 5 or 6 perfect 10s, and then they have a couple like 1s and 2s. And Paul Millsap's one of them. And I just wonder how much he has.
Wait, one of them a 10 or a 2?
He's a 1 or a 2. He's 1 or 2 probably. I just wonder how much he has left in the tank, and I wonder if he's the solution for them long term with those guys.
Because when they added him, some people talked about him like he was a 10, like, oh, former All-Star. Right. They're bringing him. He's going to fit perfect with that. But you've seen him recently, right, with the Nuggets. So like, what's he got left in the tank?
He was good, but not for a whole season. Like, I think he ran out of gas in a 72-game season. So that's why I just kind of wonder what he's got. If he was on the Andre Iguodala plan where he maybe took off 2 months of the season and then joined the team a little bit later, I might have a little more confidence in him. But as a starter, as he was tonight, I don't know about that.
Paul Millsap needs some more of that Silicon Valley money, the author, the book publishing deal money before he could do
Probably.
that. The stat that stood out to me in this game was both the points in the paint for the Timberwolves, 50 points in the paint for the Timberwolves, which is like a high number compared to 40 for the Nets. And then 25 fast break points for the Timberwolves compared to 9 for the Nets. Like, this Nets team has just such a large margin of victory because they can just get destroyed in the paint. They can get destroyed on fast break, and they just shoot 20 percentage points better on threes, and they just beat you out. Like that's it. Man, it's going to be really hard to beat this team if you're like a ground and pound type of team. If you're trying to just, score in the paint, win on the rebound battle, doesn't matter. Next game, let's get into your team, the Denver Nuggets versus the Oklahoma City Thunder. Overtime game.
Yes, an overtime game. As I mentioned at the top, this game was not televised. It was played in Tulsa. It was the second night of a back-to-back. They have all the makings of a preseason game, right? The Nuggets didn't play their starters outside of Will Barton, who missed a bunch of the early preseason, so just getting his legs under him. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this game other than, it did go to overtime. Marcus Howard, one of Denver's two-way players, goes off 31 points and 9 3-pointers. So there was some crazy stuff that happened in this one, later on in the game. But he goes 9 of 17, almost all of those in the fourth quarter. I don't know how you analyze this. I don't know what you want from me, Nick. I don't know how to analyze this game. It was
double for Bol Bol. What are we seeing from Bol Bol? Let's get some real deep dive Bol Bol action in the preseason. What are we?
I don't know that he's going to play a whole lot, to be honest. I mean, he does put up numbers. Here's 2 things that Bol Bol does. He puts up numbers and he puts up highlights. He's kind of out of the rotation, and I think pretty comfortably outside of the rotation. But he does do things that flash, and 12 rebounds is big for him because he has played games. I've seen him go halves without grabbing a single rebound. So the fact that he hit the boards in this one, I think was meaningful, but a lot of boards to be had.
The starting lineup for the Oklahoma City Thunder: Josh Giddey, Mike Muscala, who's like just a beloved figure with the Thunder organization, Aaron Wiggins, Trey Mann, Teo Maledon.
Yeah.
If those 5 guys walk into like a bar without like NBA gear on, do you think that people just go up and say, hey, what college do you play for, and ask Mike if he's the coach?
Definitely a lot of college looking guys in there. But I gotta defend Josh Giddey, who in 2 games, yesterday and today, looked
looking good,
absolutely brilliant. I was surprised because You remember in the summer league, I don't know if you remember, he played like 5 minutes and he looked terrible in those minutes, and then he got hurt, rolled an ankle, I believe. So I have this impression in my mind of like, oh, he looked like he really struggled. Some of the lowlights in his little stint was not good. Dominated the Nuggets. 2 games in a row, dominated. Tonight, 13 points, 9 rebounds, 8 assists. Had some highlight passes. He had this one spin pass where it's like while spinning, he threw the pass and the ball just kind of like left his body perfectly into a cutter. He really looks dynamic. He even, I know the shot is one of the big question marks, hit some nice little off the dribble pull-up jumpers. So one in a long line of rookies that I look at and I go, man, this next generation of players really fits the direction the league is going.
Oh, excited about Josh Giddey. Go listen to Locked On Thunder for more Giddey action. Giddey TikTok watch is just, Rylan Stiles is in full Josh Giddey TikTok watch.
All right.
He's like a TikTok star. Lakers versus Kings. The Lakers we'll talk about in the power rankings probably later. They lose to the Sacramento Kings. LeBron with the injury scare in the third quarter. And if you're wondering why we didn't lead the show with that, he got hurt. He kind of fell down. He kind of came down on somebody's foot a little bit, was grabbing the tendon like under his knee. And then he went out for a couple plays, came back, and immediately caught an alley-oop from Russell Westbrook. And you're like, oh, he's fine. It doesn't matter. He has adamantium blood. Like, he can just continue to regenerate as quickly as possible. It's insane.
He does come back from those little injuries but faster than anybody I've ever seen. It is pretty ridiculous.
It's him and Luka. Luka is like, every time Luka is hurt, he's just back in the next play. Or maybe he just fakes it a little.
Thing was, I'm looking at the box score that jumps out to me. Buddy Hield a plus 30 tonight in 25 minutes. Davion Mitchell, my favorite rookie in this class, plus 22. Look at the stat line: 6 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, one steal, 1 block, plus 22. I love that. Almost no stats, and then a plus 22. I have a feeling Davion Mitchell might be that guy. He might be the like unimpressive per game stats all-star who just is always a plus 15, plus 20. I love that dude so much.
Doesn't Zach Lowe call them like the Luke Walton All-Stars?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, the Luke Walton All-Stars. His is different, though, because the Luke Walton All-Stars are like guys that set good screens or cut at the right time to open up another guy. Davion Mitchell's a guy that just like, you're not going to score when he's on the court. He's too good.
So this is really, the Lakers box score is insane. It just looks so weird. Rajon Rondo, a clean minus 30 in the plus minus. But the Anthony Davis LeBron difference in their plus minus. LeBron plus 17, Anthony Davis minus 22.
Yeah,
that's going to be a story for this team all year. Is what are they going to do when LeBron's off the court? It's the same as it was last year, the year before that. Whenever LeBron's off the court, can whatever unit is out there when LeBron's off, can it still carry? And we're like, okay, we're still trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I didn't see this game watching the Nuggets tonight, so I did not see this one. I can't really say why it was that the numbers shook out the way that they did, but all I know, 0-6 in the preseason. Last time that happened was the 2012-13 season with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash.
So this is going to be fun too?
So this is going to be fun too. So, it probably doesn't mean anything. Again, this is preseason. No. Let's all throw it away. I know the Lakers after the game, I saw the quotes coming out that they said they felt like they got better every single game, and that's why they feel comfortable, which, hey, honestly, you laugh, but that is more important. If you feel like your team kind of made improvements along the way, that's probably more important than if you just had a hot second quarter that beat up on some team's second string.
Sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah. And a lot of these wins just don't mean anything. So then losses then don't mean anything either.
Right.
Russell Westbrook, only 3 turnovers. That's been the big stat that people have been watching. It's like 8 turnovers, 7 turnovers, and just 3 in this game. So notable. All right. Coming up, let's get into our power rankings. The top 5 storylines that people would be talking about if we didn't have this Simmons Kyrie whole situation. We'll talk about that coming up. But before we do, let me tell you about Adam Mares's favorite product. One time you told me that this is the one item that you would save from your burning house. And that's a Theragun.
Oh my God, it's true. I did say this.
Don't let the stress of daily life weigh on your body, whether you're an elite athlete or someone like us just trying to make it through the day. Theragun can help you. It's a handheld percussive device that releases your deepest muscle tension using a scientifically calibrated combo of depth, speed, and power. It's as quiet as an electric toothbrush. It is awesome. Adam Mares loves his Theragun. Adam, what's your favorite part about the Theragun?
Oh, I mean, the favorite part is just using it. It's the best feeling in the world. Whether you're like, sometimes I'm sore sitting on the couch wrong, slept wrong, or whatever, but sometimes I'm just like, you know what? just feel like a little Theragun today. It's fantastic.
Go to Therabody.com/lockedon. Therabody.com/lockedon. You can try the Theragun for 30 days starting at only $199. Therabody.com/lockedon. Also want to tell you about Built Bar. It's a protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. I got the Churro Puff. Love that flavor. That's a great flavor. And they're gone already. And as soon as I saw it pop up on the website, I knew you had to go get it. So go check out the limited time flavors they have right now. Rocky Road, Strawberry Puff, and the Cherry Lime. Strawberry Puff right now, 130 calories, 17 grams of protein, 5 grams of sugar in a bar covered in 100% chocolate with the marshmallow consistency in the middle. They're great. I love them. Go check it out. Use the promo code LOCKED15. You'll get 15% off your order. You can buy the puffs, the bars, the Built Bites, which is a mini version of the bars, the Built Broth, the Built Boost, all kinds of products. And that promo code LOCKED15 will work for all of it. So go check it out. Built.com. Use the promo code LOCKED15. All right, Adam Mars, it's time. Every Friday, we do our power rankings. The top 5 storylines we would be talking about without the Simmons and Kyrie situation. Number
You almost forgot how to do this, Nick. Backwards, reverse order.
Well, I don't like to put numbers on it, and you hate when I don't put numbers on it. So I'm
How
gonna
is it a power? Hold up, Nick. How is it a power ranking if there's no numbers? This does not make sense.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Giannis's title defense and improved jumper.
Yeah,
We'd be talking a lot more about
This is
Giannis.
number 5? Wow.
He would be number 5. We'd be talking a lot more about Giannis going into this season. If I've been seeing some highlights from him, and his jumper looks a little smoother. He's trying some turnaround stuff farther away from the basket. I think we'd be talking more about Giannis if we didn't have this Kyrie and Simmons thing.
So much so that it maybe should be number 1. There's a case that this should be number 1. Giannis is right there at that age when guys start to become the best of their era. And Giannis, I know, is starting to move into that conversation. The thing you wonder, a great player like him who already had so many things. I mean, he's a 2-time MVP. Like he was already one of the players of this generation. You get the championship. And I felt like mentally there was, last year he went to a new place mentally. He just stopped caring about what people said about him, about whether he missed shots. Like he just had the confidence, and he was brave on the court. This year, when you win a championship, I do think there's something with players where it's like you get this extra level of confidence where you're the top dog. And I just see some of these, like some of these clips of Giannis taking jumpers, taking fadeaways in the post, and you think that's a guy who is like above everything right now. He is now getting the most out of his game, and I'm with you. Except other than I would think that this might be number 1 because we might be witnessing the Giannis era. And we might have started last year and we just didn't realize it, to where the league is his and somebody else has to prove they can best him.
So it's top 5 storylines we would be talking about. It's not like that we should be, right? It's what would the general public be talking about? What would people be talking about? So that's my defense for Giannis being 5. Now, number 4, the rookie class. I feel like the new thing, that the new guys coming in, that's the one that always is like a really big deal. Cade Cunningham, Jalen Green, Evan Mobley. We talked some Josh Giddey already, so I'm glad that we already talked about him. But we'd be talking about these guys a lot more.
Do you know who you did not talk about? The preseason leading scorer amongst rookies, Bones Highland. We are not talking about him. The preseason leading scorer amongst rookies. Bones, baby. I'm telling you, star in the making.
That's number 4 we'd be talking about the rookie class a lot more.
There are so many. Honestly, this class is so deep of guys. This is one of the deepest classes, I think, based on what I've seen so far, that we've had in a while, just in terms of guys that are going to be in the league for 10 years.
Perfect time for the Mavs to not have a pick. They had 3 last year and just may have missed on all of them. Number 3, Zion Williamson's injury being hidden. We actually did talk about this in our first segment, but this would be a huge, massive deal if we didn't have the Kyrie Simmons situation. Like this is maybe could be number 1, but yeah, Zion, insane that this injury was hidden.
It's going to be a storyline in 10 days. Like once the season gets a couple games in, 2-3 games in, I think it's going to be one of those things where you look at and go, are the Pels okay? Like what's going on right now?
What if they start 0 for 10, or something like that?
I mean, I don't think they're going to start. Maybe. I mean, you never know, but there's a cloud around that team, and people I don't think quite realize it just yet.
Number 2, we actually did get into this a little bit. They'd be talking about Russell Westbrook and the 0-5 Lakers. This would just be everywhere. It'd be as the sky falling. Is LeBron
0-5? You must be looking at yesterday's record.
0-6. Sorry.
Yeah. 0-6.
0-6. This Lakers team in the preseason. They'd be bringing back the Sports Illustrated. So this is going to be fun covered. They'd be bringing back all kinds of stuff. They'd be showing the memes of people comparing this team to the Shaq, Kobe, old Gary Payton, old Karl Malone team. They'd be bringing back all kinds of stuff with this. And the team just getting more injured every game too. It feels like every day somebody else is going down for that team.
My only pushback is the Lakers are getting a lot of attention. Like, this is a storyline I think is being discussed. And also, we're at that terrible part of the preseason now where, what do we have, 5 days before the regular season begins, 6 days? Guys, people are going to start talking about this because there's nothing else to talk about for the next several days. So
we're done with the Kyrie Simmons thing.
We're done with that. We're going to start making up storyline. Who are we worried about now? And that'll dominate the next 4 days.
Speaking of making up storylines, my number one thing we'd be talking about if we didn't have the Kyrie and Simmons situation. Not kidding. No satire on his part. Tyler Hero sat down and said, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, Ja Morant. Wow, I feel like my name should be in that category.
Wow.
Tyler Hero said that. He said that deadpan to the camera, and I just cannot believe. Like, no one's talking about this, and I can't believe it. That's an insane quote.
So it was Luka Doncic. Who else was it?
Trae Young and Ja Morant.
Yeah, I don't know what the category is. I'm very confused about the category if you throw Tyler Hero in it. I thought the category was superstars, but then I heard Tyler Hero's name, and I'm like, nope, it's got to be a different.
But Tyler
category.
Hero put his name in that category. He thinks his name should be in that. He's the only one that's been to a finals.
Great point. And all jokes aside, like, look, NBA player has more confidence in himself than anyone else on earth. Right. Shocking. But I will say Tyler Hero is he's one of the more interesting players coming into the season because, while I don't think he's a superstar, I do think he's good enough to change the way I personally view Miami. And I got to imagine a lot of people, if he performs like he did in the preseason. I don't know if you realize this. I believe he is he the leading scorer in the preseason? No, he was close. He's the 5th leading scorer. He's averaging 20.8 points per game in 28 minutes. So maybe this is a bounce back. It's weird to say bounce back year, but he had a great rookie season, a little bit of a down sophomore. Maybe this is a year where he kind of does become more of a household name. And if so, it would be exciting. Yeah,
this is the opportunity. I mean, they lose they lose both Nunn and Dragic that are kind of their scorers. They bring in Kyle Lowry, who's going to be that starter. It's Tyler Hero's time to be that guy off the bench that scores like 20-something points a game. This would probably be the year for them.
There's another third-year player who is a shooter who I'm actually even more hyped about, and that's Jordan Poole. Jordan Poole's had a hell of a preseason here. I know this isn't one of the top 5 storylines, although it could be, honestly, if you get it.
Warriors,
Warriors, same with Miami, where they have their core pieces in place. Golden State has their core pieces in place. If you get a breakout player there where it's like, oh, hey, by the way, we also have this bonus good player, that changes the trajectory. And both Poole and Tyler Hero, to me, can be that type of guy where it's like a bonus good player, even if he's not an all-star, a bonus good one.
This is the theoretical Kyle Kuzma spot, right? Where like Kyle Kuzma was supposed to be that guy, and then sort of was there and sort of wasn't, and then
it's a good one.
Yeah, that's the bump that they should be getting. But instead, we're not talking about any of this stuff because Kyrie does an Instagram live and gets 100,000 people to watch it at once, which is
that how many people watched it? See, here's how
not how many people watched it. Like you and I both do like live streams and YouTube and all that stuff. 100,000 live at one time. That's insane.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. One storyline that you didn't mention that I think might become more of a storyline. Well, we'll have to see.
I had to make room for the Tyler Hero thing.
No, the 3-point shooting in the preseason has been absurd. Teams are getting their threes up. And I know this has been an upward trend for 30 years, right? Guys taking more and more threes. But you keep thinking we reached the saturation point, the breaking point. And this preseason team, the 3-point shooting is up so dramatically. And I'm curious to see if that translates to the regular season. Everybody plays like the Houston. I think that Houston Rockets would be an average 3-point attempt team, the 2018 Rockets, based off this preseason.
Yeah, everybody's taking 33s a game. The Warriors are taking 55 a game. The Jazz 46 a game. The Thunder 46 a game. The Kings 46 a game. The Nuggets
absurd,
45.
man.
That's a lot of teams taking a bunch of threes. So yeah, that would be a maybe a thing. Maybe a thing we talk about. But there you go.
I think it might be. I'm going back. I want to look and see how many of the Rockets took in 2018. What was it? What is our number? 45. Yeah. Wow. 45. So I guess they would still be about 4/5. Now there's 5 teams taking 45 a game. So that's pretty wild, man. That Rockets team of 2018 was such an outlier.
And it's just become the new thing. Like if you're a team that, all right, we don't really have a shot tonight, let's just put up 53s. Right? Like that's sort of become a thing that teams do. Like, all right, let's just put up as many as we can.
But what players are getting drafted? Not exclusively, but mostly guys that can shoot. And
true.
The league is self-selecting for this. I think developmental pipelines are selecting for this, and we're just getting an influx of guys capable of taking those. And now every team has four shooters on the court at all times, sometimes 5.
Yeah. There you go. Locked on NBA Fridays. Go listen to Locked On Nuggets. Go listen to Locked On Mavericks. Great stuff every single day from those channels. Go check out DNVR. Guys, thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA. Boom.